is not madness.
And failure is not your woman leaving you, or your family disowning you. It is not society deciding you are overall a danger. And the degenerate, no, dangerous, degenerate, that is what they said about Plato. That is what they said about Bukowski, about Rimbaud, about Hemingway, about Lorca. Always best to question yourself if you become too well-adjusted or if people are too comfortable in your presence.
After all, a writer away from his desk is the most horrible kind of monster. This discomfort others feel, they're unreasonable. Demand upon you, the writer, to be a human being. To be a mere man is designed to keep you in your proper place, to keep you at the desk, to motivate you. But what is my point? Do I even have one?
Have the chemicals finally eroded the circuitry of my brain where reason is formulated? You were not made for comfort or luxury. You were not made for happiness or sanity or society. You were designed to unravel, and that unraveling recorded on the page is your glory.
What other responsibilities could a writer have except to the work? Before I get to it, let's talk about the state of poetry, about how the whole goddamned enterprise as it is today, totally, entirely in a state of failure. Let's talk about Rupi Kaur and the NY Times and the New Yorker, about how the academics think they can put their smooth hands and finely manicured cuticles all over the entire infrastructure.
I have never read a single good poem in the New Yorker. To the NY Times. At least 10 years have been taken off my life reading the stale ermatic verse
That is produced today, and Rupi Kaur, the heart of the problem, the most successful postcard salesman. To call her a poet is like calling a janitor a painter, because he uses a brush. There is a couple of poets that persist in producing meaningless poetry. They believe in saying a complicated thing in a more complicated way, or saying nothing with entirely too much imagery. Gelating truth with complexity is arrogant, simplicity is pure and uncut. It is the essence of good poetry. A poem must mean something. Let us put aside for a moment that essentially all of the poetry written now will be forgotten in 100 years. That all this language which touches no one and dies without feeling on the page, because it's untrue, will disappear. If it exists in 100 years in a physical form, it will be repurposed for insulation or to wipe the asses of the radioactive men that come after us. Yes, Rupi Kaur's books will finally have a purpose, though that will still not make them works of art. And though they aren't responsible for Rupi Kaur, how can we take seriously any thoughts coming from academia when we know that the tiny minds of the fabled intuitions of learning have bet on the wrong horse, or on horses that were actually donkeys over and over again? How can we take the predictions of those who've never been right once, who can only see a writer is true after the people have chosen them? The academics still haven't recognized Bukowski, who is without a doubt one of the greatest poet of the 20th century, but his drinking views on women and general moral disregard somehow disqualifies him from entering the canon. Now we are getting to something, so let's deconstruct the protestant notion of judging writers by their morality.
This whole notion is quaint and ridiculous and easily disproved. Let's look at the writers we lose if we are basing our literary assessment on morals. Rimbaud sold guns and slaves. Normal Mailer stabbed his wife twice, nearly killing her while drunk. Ben Jonson killed a man in a duel bar and committed incest. Burroughs commit pedophilia and shot his wife in the head. Flaubert commit pedophilia. Plato committed pedophilia.
Is your writing good enough to cancel them out? What horrible deeds have I done? And why is it, as long as the work I